Bladder dysfunction is one of the most prevalent but under-researched symptoms in multiple sclerosis for multiple reasons. There are barriers both on the clinician side, but also on the patient side, embarrassment, thinking that it's part of normal aging, and it can really affect quality of life and functioning. And so what we wanted to do was look at tools that are already on the market, so commercially available wearables. And last year, I think I presented on sort of how we went through to choose these using stakeholder engagement. So we had participants of all different sort of ages and tech ranges, as well as experts, urologists, pelvic floor PT, and neurologists, sort of people that are experts in wearable devices. And so we had these stakeholder meetings and used a human-centered design to choose the devices. So the top scoring ones were was a wearable ultrasound, a wearable bladder ultrasound that tells you how full your bladder is. It's an app to your phone and it goes from 0 to 10, and a gaming pelvic floor exerciser. So because of the intravaginal device, our pilot study was limited to women, but we are expanding to men using other devices. So I won't repeat what we did last year, but the study design to look at these devices, we wanted to compare the wearable devices. So we compared the wearable ultrasound with a post-void residual, which is sort of how it's an ultrasound that's done in the clinic and the patient's asked to void, and we do an ultrasound to see how much urine is left in the bladder. And that's the sort of one-time in-clinic measure that we get. And then we have a 3-day bladder diary. So you have to write down, how many times a day, for how long, how much urine, if there was urgency, leakage, sort of all of these things in a usually paper form. Now there's an app for everything. So there are apps for the 3-day bladder diary. But those are the sort of conventional measures. And then we were comparing the wearable ultrasound. So people were asked to wear them for 3 to 5 days a month for 3 months. And there was a lot of data, and because I know we don't have a huge amount of time, I'll sort of skip to the results. But what we saw was a really nice agreement between the retention from the post-void residual, the PVR, to the DPVR, we called it. So the residual that we found from the bladder diary, sort of at-home measure, which was really nice. We did Bland-Altman plots. One thing that was really interesting was that because at home you could do multiple sort of PVRs, DPVRs, there was a huge discrepancy between them, as with nearly all measures with MS, right? Because the symptoms fluctuate so much. So during one day, we had people who fully voided, hardly voided at all. It was sort of from 100 to 66. Then it was 100 to like a 2, and it was 100 to 20. So being able to capture that variability in bladder function was really exciting to us, and something that we're going to take forward to our future pilot trials. And then looking at the bladder diary frequency, so this is sort of people writing down how many times they've voided, there was a really high interclass correlation between that and the frequency recorded by this objective bladder monitor. So the ICC was 0.81, which was really nice. So in summary, it was feasible. We had like 86% of people completing the study fully. There was clinical utility for these in women. We learned how to QC and manage and interpret this huge amount of data, because some people had 36,000 data points per day. We learned how to optimize this for this cohort of patients, because obviously these commercial devices are not made for people with MS. To our knowledge, this was the first study using commercial wearables for people in MS to help with bladder dysfunction. And then this is kind of where science and innovation can really have an impact, because we can expand how we monitor and treat some of the hidden burdens caused by bladder dysfunction in people with MS, and then potentially many other neurological conditions that have bladder issues. This study was funded by the National MS Society, so I'm really grateful to them to give us the opportunity to look into this really bothersome symptom that is very understudied still. And, I'm excited that hopefully next CMSC, I'll be able to present the results of our pilot intervention trial. So we're using these devices in conjunction with pelvic floor PT so that we can get, greater intensity, duration, and frequency of treatment, and a bit more of a closed loop intervention where the therapist can see how the patient is doing at home and make adjustments, but in between clinic visits. So hopefully next year we'll be able to talk about that.